Hey, this is Avi Kaplan, and you are listening to Sound Vapors.
Hey, it's Tommy Marz, Sound Vapors Podcast. What is going on today? All right, on the episode, we have Avi Kaplan. Really excited about this one. I've been a fan of Pentatonics since I watched the sing-off all those years ago. Actually, you know what? I don't know when the year was. I think it was like 2013-ish, I think. Anyhow, I watched that show religiously every week, and Pentatonics was my jam. That was my pick. Like almost from the beginning, I was just like, wow, this is really good. There was another group too I liked called Afro Blue. I thought they were really, really good too. It's weird because I kind of remember some of the names. I think Beelzebubs or Beelzebees or something like that. I kind of remember that name. They were on there. I thought they were pretty good. Anyhow, so I've been a fan. I've been a fan of his music. He had an album come out a couple years ago, Avriel and the Sequoias. I was a fan of that EP that came out, and I'm hoping actually to get into that one a little bit too with him because I just want to kind of talk about the song Fields and Beer. So if you know that EP, you know what song I'm talking about. You probably know the video. It's stellar, man. It's a great tune. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So hopefully we'll get into that. And then, you know what? I'm going to play his brand new song. He's got a new single out. So I'm going to play that for you. And yeah, man, we're going to get to that in just a few minutes. So I have a few minutes before I'm going to get him on the phone. So before that, this is called Killing Time. So actually, it's not. Do I have any coffee drinkers out there? Anybody out there drink coffee? I'm a coffee connoisseur. So here's the scoop. I've been switching back and forth. Not from decaf to caffeinated, leaded, unleaded, Roadhouse. I've been like my brand. So I've been a Caribou guy forever and a day. And then like Caribou pulled out of a ton, like every state, I think. I mean, I think they're in like Minnesota or something like that. Side note. So I was down in South Carolina like last year, and I didn't know until I left there was a Caribou that was around the corner from where I was staying. I cannot believe I did not know this. Oh my, I was like legit pissed. I was like, I could not believe that I didn't know this. Think I would do some recon. Anyway, so because I do that when I'm flying, when I go to an airport, like it's one of the first things I check. Hey, is there a Caribou coffee here? So at Detroit Metro, DTW, there used to be right where you got off the escalator after you got screened, security, TSA and everything. But it's gone now. But this last time I was flying, there's one in Atlanta, Hartsfield, so there was a Caribou there. And then I was just at LAX. The only thing is I didn't get the chance to venture out to see. I didn't really have the time to see if there was a Caribou, and I was bummed about that. So that's how much I love the caramel high rise. So I've always been that guy. I get the beans. Sometimes I get them ground because I'm lazy. But sometimes I get the bags of coffee, and I'm fine with it. But man, I made the switch. I went to Starbucks, and I think it's because there's no Caribous around here, so I'm constantly going to Starbucks to get a coffee. Now I'm used to that. I'm used to that flavor. It's a little more, aggressive, tart. I'm not sure what the word is, but anyhow, so I switched on my home coffee as well. So I've been doing just Pike, just a regular Pike. That's all I get now at Starbucks is just Pike. And so I've been doing it. The reason for this long-winded rant is because the other day I was in the supermarket and I decided to pick up a bag of Caribou because it's been a while now. And I got it, so I made the switch back, people, and I want to tell you something. It's still really good, but yes, the thing is, I think I like the Starbucks better now. It almost feels too mild. Like, okay, on my coffee maker, I have this scooper, and I don't know what it is. All I know is when I put one scoop in, that counts for 2 things of water, like what they call 2 cups of water on the little thingamajig. So if there's 8 mathematicians, it should be 4 scoops, and I've always done 4 scoops. But then with the Caribou, I always put in 5. I always felt like it needed a little more kick. When I got the Starbucks, I kept doing that, so it was like really strong. Well, now I'm trained to that. Like, in fact, one day I did 4, like on accident or something. I thought about it after I pressed it, all that other stuff. It was weak, man. It was really watered down. Reason why I tell you this is because I think with the caribou, I did my 5 scoops to 8 cups of water. I think I have to do 6 with caribou. I think it's too weak. Maybe that's why I think I'll like it more if I do 6 scoops. But this is getting out of control. Seriously, you're going to come back to the show in 6 months and I'm going to be like, yep, 18 scoops and oh, it's awesome. You wonder why I'm like strung up all the time. Just coffee, man. Okay, that's my coffee talk of the day. Coffee talk. Like I said, I'm really excited to have you hear his thoughts and his point of view from the making of this album. In the meantime, I'm going to go grab him and I'm going to let you hear the new song from his brand new album, his brand new EP. This is Born in California. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk about your new record, man. I'm excited. How's it going, first of all? How's everything? Are you in Nashville right now? Or
Dude, everything is great right now. I'm actually in London chilling out for a little bit before tour starts. And everything's going really, really well. I'm in a great place and I'm just excited for the future.
Awesome. So you've got your new EP coming out. It's coming out February 28th. Can you tell us the name of it and how many tracks are on it?
Yeah, so the EP is called I'll Get By, and there are 7 tracks on it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you work with Mike Mogus, right, on this? He was a producer?
Yeah, man. Mike is unbelievable. He is truly a wizard in the studio.
I was going to ask you, what was it like working with him? How was his like producing style? Like how'd that go? Because like you have such a unique voice and you have such a great voice, but it's not like there's when a 4-piece band goes in the studio, you kind of get the whiteboard out and you're like, hey, we got to track bass today. We got to track drums. How was it with you? What's that working environment?
With Mike, we had a lot of conversations on how we wanted to, produce it. And one of the things that I spoke to him about before we even got into it was, how are we going to put all these different eclectic songs on this EP and all the different ways I like to sing, and make it all feel like it's part of the same thing, And so that was something early on that I was a little bit concerned about. And he was just excited to dive in. I think that, for each song, we would just kind of sit down and talk about, what we both imagined for it. And then just kind of start laying stuff down, and then from there, we just kind of figure out what else it needed. And one thing that he brought to the table that he was like, hey man, I have this really, really amazing drummer. His name is Scott Seaver. He was like, I really, really feel like we should bring him in. And so, he lives in LA. We flew him out, to Omaha, and we all just kind of got together. And so I would play the song with Scott, and we would just do a bunch of different passes, whether I was singing with him or I wasn't, or playing with him. And he would just put down a bunch of ideas. So we had that solid rhythmic foundation. And then really the rest of it was kind of just adding stuff where needed, I already had a very clear idea of what I wanted it to sound like, but Mike definitely expanded it.
Wow. Sweet, man. So how long did you spend tracking these songs?
I came and went from Omaha a few times. I think overall, maybe 3 weeks is what we spent for the tracking portion of it. But that was also like a lot of the mixing was in there too. So yeah, I would say 3 or 4 weeks.
This is total. Sorry, going off the rails, Avi. I'm sorry. I got a question for you. So with your voice, I'm a fan of your voice, and I want to actually just. Oh, definitely. I want to touch on the Sequoia stuff also that you did, because I'm actually a really big fan of it. And so I'm wondering, in the studio, when you guys are mixing your voice and you've got these incredible lows, but you've also got these really high harmonies that are fantastic. How does that look when you're mixing your voice? Like, do you guys cut off certain frequencies? Or I know this is totally not the general type of questions, but I'm really curious. Like, how does that work when you guys are mixing your voices, all your harmonies together? Like, do you have to cut certain things so it flows together? Or can you get into that at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are times where we need to carve out certain things from other aspects, from a guitar or from a synth or whatever, in order to have a space for the vocals. But I think that depending on the song, I think that, there are songs where those bass type vocals need to come out a little bit more and be more present. So, that's obviously, bumping, the lower frequency is around like 60 hertz and stuff like that. But Well, I mean, usually what I'd like to do is I like to use that register for pretty much everything. Whether you can hear it or not, it just is something that I like to have in there, just as a texture. Whether anyone would notice it, pretty much anything that's going on bass wise, I've sung a line with it. Now with stuff that we did with Mike, not as much, but there were definitely a lot of things in there where I'm done with the bass line with the vocals. Um, and yeah, I mean, I one thing that was really important for me, with anything that I do, is that, harmonies are used not just as, harmonies for the lead, but as like a production element where it's used as almost like an instrument, almost as like a
Hmm.
synth. And so for me, that was something that I wanted to capture, but do it in a way where it was tasteful and that felt like it was a part of the vibe. I didn't want it to feel like it was, an a cappella album trying to be folk. Not at all. I wanted it to feel like it was very organic, and that it fit with what we were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you talked about those harmonies. Yeah. Not just, it's almost like not for the sake of having harmonies. You want to, it's got to bring something to the song. It almost becomes like its own instrument, and that's kind of what I was thinking was for me, like, okay, so you've got Change on the Rise, which stood out to me right away. But another song you have is Born in California, which is actually my favorite track on the whole EP. But one of the main things is those harmonies are just it's like otherworldly. That's the only word I could really think of when I was
Thanks,
listening to it. I was like,
man.
yeah, just blown away. So, do you have a song on there that I know it's a hard question because I know they're all very important to you, but do you have one that when you were finished, you kind of just sat back and was like, wow, like it kind of blew you away?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like all of them. I kind of had that moment where I was like, wow, like I'm so happy with where this came to. Like where it arrived. But I think you mentioned Born in California. I think that one, I definitely didn't imagine it being what it ended up being. I think that with Mike adding the drums that he added to it, I imagined it being much more stripped back. And we started doing it together. It just turned into this whole other thing. And I always imagined the harmonies being there. I've always had those there. But just everything that we had around it, I think that one definitely stuck out to me. I think that Full Moon sticks out to me. That one, every single song there, I put so much, blood, sweat, and tears into. So all of them, I'm just like, wow, I'm just so happy with how it turned out. Just very thankful for it. Yeah, man, it's tough. It's like, it's like picking a favorite.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I totally get it, and I know it's such a it's such a crappy question, but it's like on my end of it too. Like if I create something, it's like I'm the same way. It's like I like them all, but then I'm like secretly I'll say, "Ooh, I really like the harmony or the change or the bridge in that song." You know what I mean? Like
Definitely, and for every single song, there's always something that I'm like, oh, man, I'm really happy with that. Like I'm someone who's very, very hard on myself, and there are things in each song where I'm like, hey man, I'm proud of you. That's like I'm happy about that. So I think that's really important to have in each whatever I'm doing, that I can listen to it and be like, oh yeah, like I can enjoy this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so on this album you have Sweet Adaline Part 2. And for those people maybe that don't know, there is a Part 1 out there. Can you go a little deep on this? Can you explain the Part 1 and Part 2 and give us an insight of what those are about?
Yeah, man. So part 2, well, I guess probably would make more sense to start with part 1. So part 1, is it's about like that young love, It's like, it's about like just meeting someone and that like, that honeymoon stage where it's like everything is just amazing about this person, and you're just like, you're super into it, you're in love, and that is what that's about, and that's, that is what I wanted to capture with it. That's why I had it be super high on my upper register. I wanted it to be happy. I wanted it to be cheery. I wanted it to have the
Hmm.
whistles and all of that stuff. And to get deep about it, it definitely was about a relationship that I had. And, what ended up happening, obviously with relationships that don't work out, it didn't work out. And,
Yeah.
and then when I started singing it, singing it in the way that I did before didn't feel right. So I kind of changed it. I lowered the key a bunch, and I started playing it totally differently. And so whenever I would play it live, I would play this new version. And so I had that in my mind, for a while, and then I was writing this song with my buddy Daniel, and it just kind of felt like it should be the part 2 of Sweet Adaline. Just the things that were coming out, the key that it was in, it just kind of fit for everything. And so, part 2 is kind of just my explanation, for the relationship, and just kind of my look back on it. Hindsight's 20/20, and in every relationship, people do things that hurt the other person. And, looking back on that, I just want to reflect on it, and also just my explanation of it, to the girl that I was with. And, I found that for myself, I'm not always the best at communicating just with words. I feel like, the best way for me to communicate a feeling, is with music, because it's not just words, it's an entire feeling that you can create.
Right.
And so I felt like it was really important for me to create that, for the person that I was with, and also for myself, just, it was just something that a lot of things that I felt that needed to be said, but also, just saying it, to her in person, would not have done it justice for how I felt. And, so that's what the song's about, and, that's kind of where it is.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. I actually really appreciate that. That's those 2 songs, it's a theme in itself, but I mean, overall I kind of picked up a couple things, and I don't want to, assume anything. Is there a theme, or is there, I feel like there's an underlying thing you have, I don't know. It just feels like there's a little bit of spiritual, but there's this redemption piece, and there's just so much. But in your words, is there an overall feeling to this record that you're hoping people take from it?
Yeah, man. I mean, really from all my music, I feel like, and I've said this many times before, but, life isn't easy. And the only thing that really has helped me through life is music. Like I listen to my favorite artists, my favorite songs when I'm going through dark times, anxiety, depression, whatever it is that I'm going through. Music is what gets me through. And so, and that's not only just listening to it, but also creating it. And so for this album, it was therapy for myself, but also in hopes that it could also be therapy for other people, just the way that music was for me and still is for me, and I've never been someone that has shied away from, hard topics. I'm a very private person, but in terms of things that I go through, I don't always get into super detail, but it's important for me to be able to voice that I go through these dark times, because it not only does it help me, but I feel like it isn't really talked about as much, in the world. And it is more these days. But I mean, like when I was growing up, I didn't hear about anybody having anxiety. You know what I mean? I didn't hear about anybody struggling with depression when I was growing up. So it was like, I felt like I was a bit crazy, and that a lot of people deal with it these days. I feel like more than before. And maybe that's just because, people are more open about it, but I just feel like right now the world's just a tough place, and if I can do my part to help other people with it, and put my heart out there, then that's what I want to do. That's always been the dream for my music, and anything that I do musically is just kind of giving back, because music has given so much to me. So it's just a very honest representation of where I have been, some where I'm at, and some of where I'm going, or where I hope to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and it's a great piece. I mean, we could talk, I could talk a half an hour with you about mental, awareness and all these kind of things, and the need for, more people. Actually, you have a great platform. So I hope if it helps one person get through a tough time, I think it's worth it. I think it's
100%. And that's the thing, man. And that is so important. Whenever I'm talking to a young musician, I'm like, look, like at least for me, my goal is to help somebody with my music. I love it. Obviously, it helps me, but if I've helped one person, if you can help one person with your music, or really anything that you're doing in this world, like, that's the goal. You know, like I said, life's not easy, and we got to help each other through it, you know? We're all in it together. Every race, you know, every ethnicity, every country, every religion, like, we're all
Absolutely.
humans.
Yeah, I say it all the time to them. Like, you know, at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we all live and we all die. Let's just try to
Yeah,
enjoy
we're
as
all
much
trying
as
to
we
figure
can.
it out.
I gotta ask you about Field and Pier. It's one of those songs that anybody listens to this show, they know. Like when I'm previewing a record, I put on Madden and I just go at this album, you know, 5 times in a row. The thing about Field and Pier is one of those songs when I'm on downtime, that's one of those songs I go to Amazon Music and I put on repeat because it's very special. And I think for me is the first time I heard it, I didn't realize that you had that much, and I don't know if the word is range, but the versatility piece, I guess maybe that's even more important to say because so you have a great mid-range, verse, but then you've got these little noodles and these little runs that are just incredible. And then you've got those high harmonies, but then you hit this low that matches. And I think it's a cello. Oh my goodness, man. So for me is,
man.
yeah, if I show, and I have showed people, like when I say there's like, oh, the guy from Pentatonic, the real low, I'm like, listen to this, like just, I want you to hear this song to show your versatility and everything. But for me, it was a little bit of a shock the first time I put on that EP. Again, I was a fan already, so of course I was going to listen to it when you put it out, and I was like, wait, what? I didn't know that was coming. So on that album specifically, I felt like you had a lot more mid-range, and I'm sure I'm not saying that right, but not so low, of your register. And I just want to talk about that song because I just feel like it's one of my favorite songs, not of yours, period. I just think it's that good of a song. I love the acoustic guitar.
Man. That's
Yeah.
amazing to hear.
Oh my gosh, that one kills me. I mean, honestly, it's like the thing you strive for. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, damn, I wish I could have wrote a song like that. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Could you just, I know we're running out of time here. Could you just give me a quick background on that song?
Yeah, man. So, that song I was writing in college, and there were kind of a lot of things that were going through my mind with it, and it sometimes I find that when I'm writing a song, the meaning doesn't quite come to fruition until the end of it, or even later on in life. And because I just think that, sometimes subconsciously things just come out of you, right? Things that need to come out of you. And so for me, I mean, this one, I was pretty clear on what it was about. But basically, I mean, it's Fields and Piers. So basically when I was in high school and obviously growing up, I lived, in Visalia, California, which is like kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's like the agricultural capital, of the U.S., the area that I was in, the valley, the San Joaquin Valley. And so anyways, there are a lot of fields there. So that's what I grew up with, and then when I moved to like the LA area. So that's the Pier. So, so that's kind of what that's about. And I'm kind of talking to myself in it. I'm kind of like encouraging myself as sometimes that I do in songs. Whether I say that I'm doing that or not, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
That's kind of what that song's about. And it's about my home, and it's, encouraging myself, to feel the sun underneath the trees. It's like, there are going to be tough times, but you have to be able to like figure it out, and I mean, it's, it starts out, taking me far away from here, it's like, I'm in this place and I'm just not used to it, and also like in college is probably my worst time, in terms of struggling with anxiety. So, that song was kind of just the embodiment of that. It's kind of just my whole journey that I had taken from my hometown to going to college, the big city, and just like getting used to that. It was totally different, first time being on my own. And, yeah, man, that's what that song's about. And, I didn't record it until years and years later. Obviously I had been out of college for a while, but it had always been a song that had stuck with me. And it had always been a song that I'd never been able to see to fruition. And I'd always heard these string parts. I'd always heard that low cello part. And I was finally able to like sit down and do it. And, I did it with some amazing producer, Chris Harrison, who I love as a human. And he just like held space for me to really just like live out my folk dream of just like doing it, and like taking as much time. I mean, the amount of meticulousness that we had for that and that he allowed me to have was just, I mean, I've never experienced that before and after.
Wow.
And to be able to go into such detail, you know, even just for like little trills in the string and just suspensions and all the vocal parts and all of that stuff. I mean, I wrote all of those string parts so basically what I did is I wrote them by ear. I sang all of the parts and I had them like, and then we went in and we like messed around with them and put in a little extra suspensions and gravetones and, you know, trills here and there. And then I had a string player come in and play all of the parts exactly how I sang it.
Wow.
So that's kind of how that came about.
That is, wow, dude, thanks, because...
same thing with Sage and Stone as well. I composed all those by ear and with voice first, and then the string players came in.
You are one talented dude, man. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, man.
Dude, awesome. I'd love to ask you just about signing to Fantasy Records and, like, you know, some of the artists that are on there. I mean, you're talking about Mount Rushmore to some people, and we're talking about like Paul Simon, and I mentioned James Taylor and Steve Perry. Oh my gosh. You know, Steve Perry and Nathaniel Ratliff, Tanya Tucker. I mean, the list goes on and on. How does it feel to be with such great company, and how's this home for you now at Fantasy?
Dude, I mean, it really is a dream come true. I mean, like the high school version of myself would be like really tripping out right now. I mean, I'm tripping out right now. You know, it's like, you know, I've done a lot in my career, but the thing about it is that like I've never really been able to like delve into like my heart and soul of music. That's folk music. And this is like, I mean, you just said like the Mount Rushmore ever. It's like, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a huge dream come true. I'm so excited about it. You know, I was always a little bit hesitant about, you know, getting to the label again. And when I met the people at Fantasy, I felt like it was a home for me. You know, I felt like just the entire vibe of it, for me, at the end of the day, it's about the music, it's the soul of the music, it's about the heart of the music. Mm-hmm. And, you know, money comes and goes, but that is something that will remain. Whether one person hears my music for the rest of my life or millions or years to come, like, if it is my truest heart, regardless of how much, you know, money it makes at all, it's like, it's got to be the heart and soul of it. And right. So, you know, getting with this label, feeling that was actually what it was going to be, was like, it kind of blew my mind. And so now that we're doing it, it feels great, man. It's been awesome. It's amazing to have a great teammate, and also to just be associated with those artists is going to be extremely beneficial for me. Not even just, you know, just to be able to like meet them someday or collaborate with them or
exactly, yeah.
Just like even to just be associated with them is a huge honor for me, and it's just been a huge blessing. I mean, everything that's been happening with me lately has just been such a huge blessing, and I'm just like, I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great on so many levels. And if you could side note, if you can make the James Taylor thing happen, that would be
yeah, dude,
that would be insane. I tell you what, if you can make that happen, that will be epic, because I think those two together could make something really magical. As you can tell, I'm already a fan of what Avi Kaplan does, and I think adding, you know, somebody like James Taylor obviously would just be amazing for everybody. More amazing for Avi because he gets to work with him, but you know what I mean? Like, that would be great for all of us as fans sitting here to hear something like that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Avi. I can tell you something here from a personal note. You know, I hear a lot about down to earth, and I hear, you know, when somebody's nice and all these things. I see it on social media and stuff like that. This is one of those times that it couldn't be more truer. Truer is probably, is truer even, I don't think truer is a word. Okay, anyway, so it could not be more true about a person that I've spoken with on this show than Avi Kaplan. I mean, the guy is so down to earth, just very kind, very friendly. You can tell he has a genuine, kind soul. You can just feel that from certain people, and he definitely is that. So it was my pleasure having him here on the show today. And so if you want to go check him out on his social media, platforms. Just look up Avi Kaplan, AVI KAPLAN, and his Twitter is Avi_Kaplan. And then you can type him in the Facebook and Instagram and find him and go give him a follow, give him a shout, and tell him Tommy Marz sent you. All right. Hey, you know what? If you're new around here and if you're listening to the show today because you're a fan of Avi Kaplan, hopefully you like what we do. Take a look around. There might be some interviews for you, man. You might enjoy some of the other ones. So if you take a minute and subscribe, I really appreciate it. And, any kind of, like I mentioned before, if you have any kind of comments, questions, anything about the show, my handles, TOMMYMARZBAND, Tommy Marz Band. That's where I'm at on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere pretty much at that handle. So if you have anything to say, that is the best place to do it. And to be honest with you, Twitter's probably the place I'm busiest the most. And some of these that might be listening, I've seen a lot of you Avi Kaplan fans on Twitter. So it's great to see you on there. So you guys are friendly people, man. I really like it. I love friendly people. All right, man, it's time for me to get out of here. Stay tuned for the next show. The next couple episodes features the model Bobby Brown, Orianthi, killer guitar player, and a cool rock band out of Chicago called The Outfit. They're going to be on tour with Puddle of Mudd later this summer. So stay tuned for those. Stick around. All right, it is Tommy Marz, and you've been listening to Sound Vapors.